Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Rob Gill here at Epic. And the question that we're going to talk about today is what happens to real estate in a recession? Thank you for tuning in. And as you know, every day we're pushing out content to provide as much education as we can. And for us, we want to bring in professionals that are outside our industry to share what's going out in the real world so you guys can learn and be able to take advantage of opportunities that come your way because you put together proper planning, you have an investment philosophy, and you understand what your goals and objectives. With that being said, again, I have back by popular demand Teresa Trigus Pfefferly, who is without a doubt a wild, successful entrepreneur in the space of real estate, has over 160 agents that work with her, and is an owner of a real estate office. And you know, when we talk a little bit about Teresa, we talk about how recessions happen,
Yeah.
right? Typically and traditionally, what happens to real estate during recessions?
Okay, well, in 2008, 2009, I watched all of my real estate transactions come crashing to the floor. There were appraisal problems. This is how it started.
And
right?
that was not a traditional recession either, right? Like that was a little bit beyond the norm because of the credit crisis.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So things, from my perspective, transactions stopped happening.
Yeah.
And what was happening was falling apart.
Yep.
And the people who were trying to sell their homes couldn't. They were completely underwater. And what ended up happening is there was a backlog of homeowners. I know some people who were in their homes for 4 years without paying because the banks were so inundated with distressed properties.
Yeah.
And so that then turned and rolled into a foreclosure boom,
Yep.
and which was a great time to invest.
So for the entrepreneurs out there during that recession, let me just be clear, just so
Yeah.
we could create clarity. You were a successful real estate agent on a Monday. All your deals are going through, and out of nowhere, once again, there's no calamity bell. You do not get any warning that something's going to happen and the world is going to change if you're not properly prepared for winter. So when winter comes, winter doesn't like Rob Gill. You want to know why? Because I'm colder than winter. So with that being said, at the end of the day, were you able to make a pivot during that recession immediately? Or was it like you gathered your feet real quick and then you became an investor?
I gathered my feet.
Okay.
I gathered my feet, and I actually took a part-time job at the time as a single mom, real estate person. I worked 3 days a week selling furs.
Wow.
To put gas in my car, because selling real estate, you're driving around, and the gas, if you remember,
it
was
at
very
$3.
expensive.
Yeah. Yes.
And so I thought, if I could do this, this will stabilize me while I'm figuring out what's happening with my income and where the next, transaction's going to be. And it was after that I pivoted and started investing in real estate.
Okay. And you became an investor still during a recession?
Yes.
Correct?
Absolutely.
And was it that the recession was kind of counting a lot of other folks out and you had an opportunity because prices came down? Is that
It was
what happened?
interesting because there was a period of time where there were bank-owned multifamily properties. Like I picked a couple up under $100,000.
So for these folks out there, how do you pick up a bank-owned property during a recession?
You got to be on it. You got to look and be on it and move quick.
And what do you got to look at?
I think you just have to look at, for me, it was the entry price and the projected cash flow of the rents. And then you say to yourself, this is worth the risk to get into it, to fix it up a little, and to get it rented.
Okay. So it sounds like action steps was the key.
Constant action, yeah.
Yeah.
So, which excites me
Yep.
about the pandemic.
Yep.
Because for someone who's been there, done that, and watched it happen over the last 20 years,
Yes.
I'm feeling like now's the time to take action.
Yeah. So I want to share a personal story. I think back in May or June, I had reached out to Teresa, and I was like, I remember thinking like, yeah, she's probably going to be struggling. So I called her up, and I'm like, hey, how's everything going in real estate? And she didn't. I'm not going to use your exact words,
Right.
but the feeling I got was like almost equivalent to Christmas morning. Like it was never better, and what I didn't realize why, right? Because
Well, so in this pandemic,
That's what I'm. Yep.
what is different than what was different back in 2008
Yep.
is much like the toilet paper crisis we all went through in March, is what we're seeing in real estate. People's lives are now shifted because they're no longer anchored to a city.
So we're right outside of Manhattan here, folks.
Yes. And so people are evaluating, if I'm spending all of this time in my home,
Yep.
do I really want to be inside these four walls, or do I want a space that enables me to have chickens or to have a pool? Everybody wants a pool. If your house had a pool this year, your house went for way over market value.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking way over market, right?
Okay, so scary over market.
Yes.
Because what scares me is I lived through 2008
Yes.
and I'm seeing this and I'm already 2-3 years down the road,
Yes.
right? Thinking overinflated market values are never good for anybody in the long run.
Yes, yes.
Right?
And to that point, so we're talking about two separate recessions and bifurcation of that in two different incidents. But I think what Teresa's sharing is mindset first.
Yes.
Right? Be ready to act when winter comes.
Yes.
Right? Because summer doesn't like me either because I'm hotter than summer, just so we're on the same page. So if that's the case, if we could stay ahead of the seasons economically and in any other way you want to be able to do it, it's about what is your mindset? What kind of research? Now, when it comes to real estate, your subject matter.
Here's the thing in real estate, right?
Oh, she's getting ready now.
Okay.
She's stepping in.
So here's the thing.
Look at the body language.
Okay.
This is called a philosophical change. Go ahead.
Okay. So
Physiological.
for a primary residence, there's never a bad time to buy,
Got it.
right? Because it is shelter for
Yes.
your family. And interest rates right now are, some of them are like 2.55%, 30-year fixed.
50-year low, right?
It's insane. So let's just
buy a
say
house.
that. Go buy a house. So
Go buy a
even if
house.
you overpay market value, you're making that up in the interest rate,
Yes.
right? Because back when I started in the business 20 years ago, rates were much higher.
My first rate was 7%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
100%. As from on the investment side though, I don't see a differentiation for me between now or 2 years from now, other than I see there will be more opportunity in 2 years from now.
So speaking of that, when it comes to real estate, with difference between rental properties and commercial real estate.
Yes.
Your husband is a commercial broker, is that
He
correct?
is. He's a commercial lender.
Commercial lender. So not only are they on both sides of the tracks when it comes to that, but how does that factor in? What are they saying now about commercial? Because I'm hearing commercial real estate is really still in a decline versus primary.
I personally believe commercial real estate is still in a decline,
Yeah.
although he's still busy.
Okay.
Right? He still has
Refis.
clients. He has clients buying.
Okay. All right. So
Right?
here's some of the people that are coming
I
in
do
early.
think it's going to be certain sectors,
Yep.
right? If I had Teresa's magic 8 ball would say restaurants,
Yeah.
restaurant space is not a great space to be in right now.
Yeah. And even Manhattan right now, right? Like
Manhattan's going through an unusual blip.
the last time we saw that blip was in 2001 after 9/11. I
Yes.
worked downtown when that happened, and I remember the real estate market plunged in that first 6 months, and there was some smart people that came in on a deep discount.
Well, I'm just saying now's the time.
Yeah.
That
For commercial.
if for commercial in Manhattan, if you have the bandwidth,
Yeah.
now's a great time.
Wow. So there you have it. So when it comes to real estate recessions and understanding how to become a real estate investor, Teresa just laid it out. What would be some maybe 2 or 3 points that they should look at, especially now in the middle of COVID? Home, we know that it's always a good time to buy based on interest rates.
Yes.
But what if you're a guy or a gal that wants to find rental properties? How would you talk about that
I think
in this environment?
I think in this environment, you definitely take action, right? Because I have clients that failed to take action in April. They backed out of multifamily investing. Just they were afraid, and now the price of that property has gone up. So your monthly cash flow ratios are going to be different.
Yep.
So I would say really it's taking the action steps of knowing where I stand financially, talking to the mortgage person, finding out, okay, what is my bottom line, and being ready before you're actually ready. Because what I find happens with most people, like the biggest mistake that they make is by the time they get all of that done on their first offer, they miss out on the
Yeah.
opportunity because they're behind the 8 ball. So if they can tee it all up, then usually
And you just said something I thought was powerful. You think that anyone that buys something should have their mortgage broker, their real estate agent, their planner, and their attorney on the same page?
I absolutely do.
And do you recommend that to all your clients?
I do. I think it's a team approach.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, like I said, every single day we're bringing content, we're bringing education as much as we possibly can. If you have any questions or if you want to have comments with specific comments, please do it below. In the meantime, hit the subscribe button so we can continue to bring daily content.